Last episode, we modelled religion as a boundary a community keeps around itself, under uncertainty. Today, history, because a model that cannot survive contact with real history is just a daydream, and the story most of us are handed is a confident climber from many crude gods, upward, to one refined god. Ngozi, is that the right story?
It is a tidy story, and tidy stories almost always mislead. Ancient Greek religion was not primitive monotheism waiting to grow up. It was a dense, living field. Household shrines, city festivals, blood sacrifice, oracles, mystery cults promising the initiate a better fate after death. The Greeks did not even have a single word that maps cleanly onto our word religion. And crucially, it was not centralized. There was no Greek church, no creed, no founding scripture. Worship lived in the home and in the city, at the small local shrine and the great sanctuary at Delphi, in the rhythm of the seasonal festival. Many gods, many places, many rites, all running at once, with no central authority deciding which was correct.
And in our terms, that is a fascinating object. It is a generative model with no central server. The community's shared picture of the world ran fully distributed across many sites, many rites, many local gods. No single point of control, and importantly, no single point of failure.
But the Greeks themselves began pushing toward something more unified from the inside.
They did. Xenophanes, 6 centuries before the Common Era, mocked the Olympian gods openly. Gods who lie, steal, and conveniently resemble the people who worship them. He made a sharp observation. If oxen and horses could draw, they would draw their gods shaped like oxen and horses. The gods, he implied, were being made in our image. And centuries later, Stoic thought reached toward a single rational order running through the whole cosmos. There is a surviving hymn that addresses Zeus almost as one universal principle, not one quarrelsome god among many. But, and this is the part the tidy story gets wrong, that was not polytheism climbing a ladder toward a correct answer.
It is redescription. The community meets new conditions, new politics, new philosophy, wider trade, larger empires, and it retunes its model of divine order to fit. It is not an upgrade to a better version of the software. It is an adaptation to a changed world. Different pressure, different shape.
Then a very different kind of consolidation, Moses.
Different in kind, not merely in degree. And that distinction matters. The Mosaic tradition organizes faith not mainly around cult and sacrifice, but around covenant, a binding agreement between an entire people and their God, around divine law that reaches into daily conduct, and around a single, named God who is jealous of rivals. And it hands the prophet a genuinely new office. The prophet is no longer mainly a temple technician managing the correct sacrifices. The prophet becomes a morally authorized critic of kings, of priests, and of the people themselves. Someone licensed to say, you are keeping the rituals and you are still doing wrong.
For the model, that is a real leap. Covenant and law are a high-level policy architecture. They take thousands of scattered, case-by-case choices and compress them into a single, sharp, portable question. Are you keeping faith, or are you breaking it? One question a whole people can carry.
And here is Janusman's famous and genuinely contested idea.
Usman argues that older polytheisms were marked by translatability. Your storm god and my storm god could be matched up across a border, recognized as versions of the same power. Translate was almost a cultural duty. It was how neighboring peoples stayed legible and tradable and at peace with one another. The Messianic distinction breaks that machinery. It draws a hard line. Not simply one God instead of many, but true religion set firmly against false. Worship is no longer something you can quietly translate at the border. Now it can be right, or it can be wrong.
And that single line cuts in 2 directions at once. It can widen the moral circle far beyond the tribe. If there is one God of all people, then every stranger has standing. But it can also harden the boundary, until a neighbor's God is no longer a translation of yours. It becomes an error, possibly an error to be corrected by force.
Historians have a name for this whole window, the Axial Age.
Roughly 800 to 200 years before the Common Era, Robert Bellah found it striking how near contemporary the great critics were. The Hebrew prophets, the Greek philosophers, thinkers in India and China. Moral criticism of the old order breaking out, in parallel, across the ancient world, without any of them coordinating. He offered one structural reason: competition among many small, rival states gave wandering intellectuals somewhere to go, room to think and teach outside the central priesthoods and the palace bureaucracies. When no single power controls the whole board, criticism becomes survivable. It becomes structurally possible. But Bellah also warned us firmly, and we should repeat it. Do not treat Israel or Greece as the template for everything. Different civilizations made this turn very differently, and reading them all through one Western pattern is its own kind of distortion.
And that caution matters for our model too. There is no single curve here, no universal upward slope. Different communities retune their blankets in different ways under different pressures: drought, conquest, exile, trade, plague. The mathematics does not prefer one god or many.
So not a clean ascent from crude to refined. What we actually see is a long history of recombination, plurality, abstraction, ritual, law, criticism, endlessly reshuffled as conditions change. Next time, we open up the machinery itself and ask why ritual might be a technology.